Hello everyone, today I'll show you how to build a simple KPI tracker in Excel from scratch. You'll be able to track employee performance, compare targets versus actual values, and see results automatically update every month. We have two parts in this template. At the top is the KPI dashboard where we compare targets and actual values for each employee, and on the right we have a simple performance chart. And at the bottom, we have a data log where we enter daily KPI values. Once we enter the data, everything above updates automatically for the chosen months. Let's start by creating the employee table. I always change the background color to green and pick the Tahoma font. I also make the row heights 15. And then I like it when I kind of have a buffer, so my column A always has column widths 1 or 2. And I also like to make the headers slightly bigger, so the row 2 will just get row heights 30. I now need 6 columns. That's why I will make the column width 15 for those 6 columns. And this is going to be my headers. I just pick another teal color, make the font bold and white. And I will personally use 10 rows for my employees. However, if you have less than that or more than that, you can customize this table as you want. So I like to have white background colors for the cells where I can type in the values, and the green background colors where I will have the formulas so that I don't mix them up. But before that, I will just add some borders. Again, the formatting is whatever you like more. You don't have to make it green, borders, anything like that. I just decided to add bolder backgrounds to kind of separate the parts of my template, because the first column is going to be my employee names. And then I will have KPI 1 target and KPI 1 actuals, and then KPI 2 target and KPI 2 actuals. And then the last column is my total KPI percentage, so kind of an average between the two KPIs percentages. You can use KPI 1 as sales, KPI 2 as calls, but also it can be tickets closed, leads generated, or anything that is important for your business. You can also obviously have more KPIs than that if you need. And now we can start working on our log table. So for that, I just copy paste the header of the table above to keep the formatting. And then I need to make the row heights of row 15 30 because it's my header. And then I will just copy paste some sample data. I want to color format 1000 rows, but you can add more or less than that. It depends on kind of how long you want to use this. So I just like 1000, and I add some borders as always. So after that, we need to format our numbers. So the first column is obviously date. We can format it as a short date. In my case, KPI 1 is sales. So this is a USD amount. So I need to format the C and D columns as USD amounts. And then total KPI is obviously a percentage, right? So we want to calculate our KPIs on a monthly basis. So this is why we need to add our months and year cells. The column H is going to be my buffer as always. And then the row 2 is going to be the header for year and month. And the third row is where we will enter our year and our month. So for the data validation, we go to data and then data validation. And then we have kind of two options. Obviously, we can just use the numbers and just specify from 1 to 12, but then we will need to type it in. If you want to have a real dropdown, we need to use list and just enter the 12 numbers, comma separated. You can technically use months names, but this is going to be really language dependent. So if your Excel is not in English, it might lead to some troubles. So now we are done with our months and year, and we can start working on our formula. So this is going to be the hardest part. So we want to sum our KPI values, but only for a specific employee for specific months. So our SUMIFS can have multiple conditions. So if you compare it to SUMIF, which uses only one condition, so it's SUMIFS. Here, the first values are the ones that we are going to be summing up. So in our case, KPI 1 values. And you can just highlight the whole column, but because I know that I have 1000 rows, I just prefer to enter like 1000 15, right? Because I know where it starts, I know where it ends. So the second condition is that we want to count everything for the specific employee. So this is then going to be our column C from the row 16 till the row 1015. And in that column, we want to look specifically for Liza, so our cell B3. And then the next condition is going to be our months, because we're going to be summing everything up for a specific chosen months. So for that, we need our date column, which is then B16 to B1015. And the date there should be greater or equal till the basically 1st of March 2026. So we need to build our date like this. And for that, we need to use date formula, where we can just enter a year. We already have it in I3, and month in J3, and then 1, because the month starts on the 1st, right? And then we need to do the same thing, so we can copy paste the column B. However, we need to add 1 month, and we will need to use another formula for that, because we can't just write 31st or of March, because we will then need to do it for every single month, because months have 30 days, 28, sometimes 29. So it's just easier to use this months column and move everything for 1 month. Then Excel does it automatically. So this is then it for our KPI 1. The only thing that is missing, we need to basically add dollar amounts everywhere but for the employee, because we will just, it will keep our formulas intact, right? And we will just be able to copy paste the formula through the whole table. So done, and I can just extend it, but I do copy it without formatting because of my borders. So now I can just easily copy paste the same formula to the KPI2 actuals, and the only difference is that we will be summing up not the column D, but the column E, and the rest is basically the same. So just change the D to E, and that's it. I will be copy pasting the formula into the description, but keep in mind you will need to have exactly the same rows for this formula to work the same. So now we have our total KPI percentage. So for that, we need to divide our KPI1 actual by KPI1 target plus KPI2 actual divided by KPI2 target. And because we want an average of that, we will just divide the sum by 2. However, the problem with this is if you divide by 0, if you forgot your KPI target or whatever. So for this, we will just add if error formula. So we would just want to have like an empty cell like this. And this will also allow us to use an average formula for all of our employees. So next step, we obviously want to see the sum targets for all of our employees. So we just sum up the column C, and we can extend this, but the only difference is that we do not want to sum up the percentages. Obviously, we want to use the average. So we just substitute sum with average. And because we used if error, it will now calculate the percentage correctly. I can also make it bold, and the only thing that is missing is basically our color formatting for the total KPI. So I will just color code it red, yellow, and green, and I want everything that is 0.5 to be red, and then everything 0.8 yellow, and everything 1 and above green. So now we can also add a bar chart, right, for our employees. And you can keep it as it is. I just normally delete my title. I add the data labels because it's just easier than to read everything on a graph. I do recommend using the inside ends because the outside kind of skews your perception a little bit, because numbers kind of add to the bar, so it kind of looks even bigger than it is with a number afterwards. I want to use the white coloring, and I want to change the chart design to no fill and no outlines. So I also make the numbers bold, and then I want to make the employee names darker and a bit bigger with Tahoma. And now I just want to format the data series and make the distance between the bars a little bit smaller. Okay, so it does look much better now. You can also sort the bars, but the problem is that it's not dynamic. Every time the constellation changes, you will need to resort them again. And also it kind of sorts the other way around. You need to sort your table. So you go to Home, you go to Data, Sort, and if you sort by KPI percentage, smallest to largest, you see that it's going to be sorted largest to smallest, so, and vice versa. So it's the other way around, depending on how the table is sorted. And we can also freeze the rows, so we can keep the headers independently on how many KPIs we've already entered. So now we can also add the drop downs to our employees. So we highlight the whole column, add data validation, and then we can just pick list and then pick the names for our employee column. So now every time I want to enter employee, I will see the names from my table above. So I can pick a name and then enter some KPI value and KPI2 value. So now I can just type in year 2027 and pick the first month, and I see that everything updates. So that's how you build a simple KPI tracker in Excel. You can rename the KPIs for your own use case, add more employees, or extend the data log as needed. If you want this template, you can find it in the description below. And if you'd like more beginner-friendly Excel templates, subscribe for the next tutorial. Have a great week. Goodbye.